My husband built me a cage out of love letters and hidden cameras. For 3 years, I lived on the 40th floor of a Chicago penthouse that overlooked the city where I used to design buildings. Before Julian convinced me I was working too hard and losing my grip on reality, I should have left the day I found the camera in our bedroom ceiling. Or the day I discovered he'd been secretly paying my mother's bills so she'd always choose him over me. But I didn't leave any of those days, because Julian didn't just marry me. He studied me, recorded me, built a legal fortress around me using my own moments of weakness, moments he created as proof I need to be protected from myself. The day I finally understood I was living in a surveillance state disguised as a marriage, a Korean man named Sloan knocked on my door. He was the security consultant Julian had hired to install more cameras. Instead, he handed me a note.
He's watching, but I know where the blind spots are. If you want out, we have 30 days before he moves you to the facility.
I didn't know this man. I didn't know if I could trust him. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would rather die trying to escape than spend one more day apologizing for the way I breathed in my own home.
This story is about recognizing that love should never feel like a cage. If Clara's fight resonates with you, subscribe now, because what happens next will show you exactly how a woman outplayed her predator at his own game. That moment of clarity, understanding you're trapped, doesn't arrive with sirens or earthquake tremors. It arrives on a Tuesday afternoon while you're changing a light bulb. But to understand how I ended up frozen on a step ladder, staring at a camera lens hidden in a ceiling vent, you need to understand how Julian Hale builds things. Not buildings, though he's famous for those too. Julian builds realities. Custom-designed prisons that look like penthouse apartments. And I walked into mine with my eyes wide open. 3 years earlier. The Morgan Rothschild Charity Gala was the kind of event where rubber chicken cost $5,000 per plate. I shouldn't have been there at all. My firm, Castellan and Moore, designed affordable housing, not the gleaming monuments lining Chicago's Gold Coast. But Gerald had finagled us an invitation, and someone needed to pitch our South Side urban renewal project. That someone was me. I stood near the bar in a Nordstrom rack dress, clutching my portfolio, when a voice behind me said, "You're the architect." Not an architect. The architect. I turned around. Julian Hale was taller than his Architectural Digest photos suggested. 6'2", silver at the temples, wearing confidence like a second skin. "Clara Mathis," I said. "Castellan and Moore." "I know. I drove to Bronzeville last month to see your community center." His smile transformed his face from handsome to devastating. "The way you preserved the original brick while integrating solar panels, most architects would have gutted it. You understood that preservation and innovation aren't enemies." For 20 minutes, we talked about architecture like other people talk about religion. He'd actually studied my portfolio. He disagreed with some choices, thought I should have used reclaimed steel, and we argued with the kind of intensity that made my pulse race. "I'm supposed to bid on a Napa weekend I don't want," he said when the auction started. "Would you like to get out of here?" I should have said no. "Where did you have in mind?" His smile widened. "Do you trust me?" He took me to the Green Mill, a jazz club in Uptown that had been a Prohibition speakeasy. We sat in the back with old fashions and talked about families. His grandfather who'd emigrated from Ireland with nothing, my father who'd died when I was 12. "The problem with modern architecture," Julian said, hands sketching invisible buildings, "is we've forgotten we're designing for people. We build monuments to ourselves instead of homes for communities." "Easy to say when you design monuments," I countered. "Your firm did that Wacker Drive Tower. Displaced 300 families." Instead of getting defensive, he nodded. "You're right. That's my biggest regret. I inherited that contract at 26, desperate to prove myself. I didn't ask the questions I should have. Who loses? Who wins? Who pays the real cost?" The vulnerability disarmed me completely. "So why not change?" I asked. "I'm trying." He reached across the table. "That's why I wanted to meet you. I've been watching your career for a year. You fight for projects others won't touch because they're not profitable. You design with dignity, not just efficiency. You've been watching my career? I saw your AIA presentation in Denver. You told a room full of six-figure men that poor people deserve beauty too. Half walked out. I stayed, took notes, and I thought, that woman is going to change this city. I should have heard the warning bells, the watching, the following, the studying. But all I heard was validation. The next 3 months were a montage of perfect moments. Coffee delivered to my office, pour over from a boutique roaster, made exactly how I liked it, though I'd only mentioned it once. Private Sunday mornings at the Art Institute before it opened to the public. And on our 4th date, a vintage drafting table from an Oak Park estate sale. You mentioned you do your best work by hand, he said as delivery people maneuvered the oak table through my studio apartment. For your personal projects. Julian, this is too much. It's not enough. His hands on my shoulders. You deserve beautiful things, Clara. You spend your life creating beauty for others. Someone should create it for you. We made love that night, and it felt like the beginning of everything. Present day. I woke alone in our California King on the 40th floor of Hale Tower. Yes, he'd named the building after himself, and reached for my phone. 6:47 a.m. Julian would be at the gym. Military schedule. Up at 5 o'clock, workout, shower, office by 7:30. Even weekends. My own schedule had become less structured since I'd decided to leave Castellan and more 18 months ago. I put decided in quotes even in my head because it hadn't felt like a decision. It had felt like the only reasonable conclusion to conversations that started so gently I barely noticed the pressure. You seem tired, darling. Taking on too much. I worry this job is making you sick. I make enough for both of us. What if you focused on your own projects? The ones that matter to you. So I'd quit. Told myself it was temporary. A sabbatical. That was 18 months ago. I hadn't designed anything since. I went through my morning routine. Heated marble shower, La Mer skincare, hair and makeup for a day of seeing no one. I dressed in the walk-in closet larger than my old apartment, where Julian's purchases hung in perfect rows. Valentino, Prada, Loro Piana. Labels I used to see in magazines. By 8:30, I stood in the kitchen making breakfast I wouldn't eat, watching the city wake up 40 floors below. My phone buzzed. Julian, good morning, beautiful. Dinner with the Ashfords tonight at 7. We're the Blue Valentino. I love you. I had no memory of dinner plans. But I also had no other plans. I never did anymore. Looking forward to it. Love you too. The lie tasted like ash. The light bulb burned out around 2 p.m. I grabbed the step ladder and a replacement bulb, climbed up, unscrewed the protective covering, and saw it. A small black lens, no bigger than my thumbnail, tucked into the corner of the ceiling vent. Angled to capture the entire bed. My hand froze. Security. The building has cameras. Maybe the builder made a mistake? But I knew it was wrong. This wasn't standard security. This was hidden. Deliberately concealed where only someone changing a light bulb would find it. I replaced the bulb with shaking hands, climbed down, and looked around the bedroom with new eyes. The smoke detector. I dragged the ladder over, examined the casing. Another lens. Pointed at the bathroom door. The antique mirror above the dresser, supposedly from a French chateau. I'd always thought it was angled oddly. I examined the ornate frame. A third lens, integrated into the carved flowers so perfectly you'd never notice. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Maybe it's protection. After what happened to the Hendersons. But what had happened to the Hendersons? Julian had mentioned a break-in. When? The details were fuzzy. Were they fuzzy because I couldn't remember, or because there had never been any details? I walked through the penthouse in a daze. Now that I knew what to look for, I saw them everywhere. Living room, 2 cameras. Kitchen, 1 in the ventilation hood. Guest bathroom, ceiling vent. My office, 3. Covering every angle of the drafting table I hadn't touched in months. Walk-in closet, return air vent. 11 cameras total. Watching me sleep, shower, dress, cry exist. I stood in the bedroom center, heart pounding, when my phone rang. Julian's face filled the screen. The photo from our Positano honeymoon when I'd believed I was the luckiest woman alive. I almost didn't answer. But what if he was watching right now? Had he seen me find them? Everything okay at home, darling? His voice was concerned, gentle. You seem stressed. My blood turned to ice. I'm fine. Just a headache. Do you want me to come home early? Cancel the Ashfords? No. I'll be fine by tonight. Okay, sweetheart. But Clara? You know you can tell me anything, right? If something's wrong, I'm here. Always. I stared at the camera in the ceiling vent. I know. I love you. I love you more. He hung up. I stood there and understood with perfect clarity. I wasn't a wife in a luxury penthouse. I was an inmate in a surveillance state. And my warden had just called to check on me. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt those 11 lenses watching. Julian came home at 6:30, earlier than expected. Darling, I canceled the Ashfords. He kissed my forehead. You sounded tired. Thought we could have a quiet night. My skin crawled, but I smiled. You didn't have to. Of course I did. You're more important than business. He studied my face like he was cataloging it. How's your headache? Better. Good. I'll make dinner. That pasta you love. I hated that pasta, too much pepper, but I'd said it was good once, and now it was my favorite. Perfect, I lied. I watched him cook, humming classical music, and tried to reconcile this man with the monster who'd installed 11 cameras. He looked happy, relaxed, like a man without secrets. After dinner, we watched a movie. His hand on my thigh. Possessive weight I'd once found comforting, now recognized as ownership. When we went to bed, he made love to me with careful attention, asking if I was comfortable, if I liked it, if I was close. The entire time, I knew the cameras were recording. I felt like I was being filmed for a documentary about my own captivity. At 3 a.m., when his breathing settled into deep sleep, I extracted myself and went to the bathroom. I sat on the closed toilet and tried not to cry. Crying would show on cameras. I needed information. Evidence I wasn't losing my mind. Julian's laptop. He kept it in his study. I knew his password. He'd given it to me himself, made a show of trust. At 4 a.m., I crept out. The study door opened silently. The MacBook sat on his desk. I typed, Positano 2021. The desktop loaded. Files organized with meticulous precision. Client folders. Financial documents. Personal files. And one labeled Clara. My hands hovered. Don't open it. I clicked. Subfolders appeared. Clara, Behavioral Documentation, January 2023 present. Clara, Medical Concerns, March 2023 present. Clara, Social Interactions, February 2023 present. Clara, Sleep Patterns, January 2023 present. January 2023. 18 months ago. Right after I quit. I opened the first folder. Videos. Hundreds. Time-stamped, annotated with clinical precision. January 15, 2023, 2:34 p.m. Subject crying in bedroom. Duration 47 minutes. Note, third episode this week. Suggest monitoring for depression. I clicked the file. Footage showed me sobbing into a pillow. I remembered. Gerald had called about the Pittsburgh project I'd developed for 6 months before Julian convinced me to quit. You're well out of it, Julian had said that night. Gerald was using you. But the video showed a woman grieving her career. And Julian had watched, documented it, labeled it mental instability. Another video. March 3, 2023, 11:22 p.m. Subject pacing in office. Duration, 2 hours 14 minutes. Note, insomnia worsening. Possible anxiety disorder. Consider medication. Footage of me at midnight, unable to sleep, trying to sketch anything on the drafting table. I'd thrown the pencil in frustration. I'd thought I was alone. I'd never been alone. More files. April 18, 2023. Subject having confrontational phone conversation. Note, monitor relationship difficulties with friends. May 22, 2023. Subject weight check. 118 pounds, down from 127. Note, possible eating disorder. June 10, 2023, 9:15 p.m. Subject sleepwalking. Attempted to leave penthouse. Note, safety concerns. Additional security measures needed. Sleepwalking? I clicked that video, hands shaking. Footage showed me trying the penthouse door around 9:15 p.m. Eyes open, moving with purpose. Then I remembered. That was when I'd wanted fresh air. Julian had texted he'd be late. I'd wanted to walk around the block, feel human. But I'd forgotten my keys, found the door locked, went back to the couch. Julian had labeled my attempt to leave as sleepwalking. As a safety concern. As evidence I needed more security. I opened medical concerns. Emails to Dr. Raymond Lewis, Julian's college roommate, detailing concerns about my wife's mental state and increasing instability. References to episodes I didn't remember. Angry outbursts that never happened. Paranoid accusations I never made. Julian had been building a narrative. A documented case of a woman losing her grip on reality. The final subfolder, Mother Insurance Policy. A spreadsheet opened. Dates and dollar amounts. Payments to Evelyn Mathis, my mother, for 3 years. $2,500 mortgage, monthly, $1,200 property tax, quarterly, $850 medical expenses, $3,000. Emergency fund monthly. Julian had been paying my mother's bills. All of them. For our entire marriage. She didn't know I knew. Subfolder. Correspondence. Emails between Julian and my mother, years of them. From Julian Hale to Evelyn Mathis subject. Clara's concerns. Evelyn, thanks for calling about Clara's worries. I think she's under tremendous stress. Please don't mention we spoke. I don't want her feeling like we're talking behind her back. But I wanted you to know I'm monitoring closely. Her mental health is my priority. I've researched treatment facilities if things don't improve. Please continue accepting the support payments. Let me take care of you both. 6 months ago. What worries had I shared? Then I remembered, calling her crying after another day of not being able to sketch, feeling like I was disappearing. I don't know who I am anymore, Mom. I feel like I'm losing myself. And my mother had reported it to Julian. Another email. From Evelyn Mathis subject. Thank you. Julian, I don't know how to thank you for the medical payment. The cardiologist said without the procedure, I might have had another heart attack. You saved my life. I'm worried about Clara too. She seemed thin last week, kept saying strange things about feeling watched. My sister had something similar in her 40s. Mental illness runs in the family, I'm afraid. Please let me know how I can help her. Mental illness runs in the family. My mother had given Julian genetic ammunition for the instability he was documenting. And he'd saved her life. Paid for a procedure she couldn't afford. Made himself indispensable. If I tried to leave, if I told her what I'd discovered, she'd never believe me. He'd saved her life. He supported her. He'd positioned himself as the only thing standing between her and ruin. My mother wasn't my ally. She was his insurance policy. I sat surrounded by evidence of his systematic destruction of my life, feeling the trap close. He'd isolated me from my career, documented my instability, bought my mother's loyalty, created a fortress of evidence that would make me look insane if I told anyone. And I'd helped him. Every cry, every frustration, every vulnerable moment, building his case. Movement from the bedroom. Panic. I closed everything, shut down the laptop, crept toward the hallway. Clara? Julian's voice sleepy. Where are you? I froze in his study doorway. Getting water. Headache's back. Come to bed. I'll get it for you. No, But he was already in the hallway. Hair mussed, looking at me in his study doorway. Something flickered across his face. What were you doing in there? I thought I heard something. Checking everything was okay. He studied me, then smiled, the smile I'd fallen in love with. Warm, loving, trustworthy. You're so thoughtful. Always taking care of me. He pulled me into his arms, kissed my forehead. Let's get you water and back to bed. You need rest. He led me to the kitchen, poured water, watched me drink it. Better. We went back to bed. He spooned me, arm a cage around my waist. I love you, Clara. You know that? Everything I do is because I love you. I know. You'd tell me if something was wrong. If you were feeling off. My heart hammered. Of course. Good. Because I worry. You seem so fragile lately. So unlike yourself. Unlike the self you've been destroying. I'm just tired. I'll be fine. I hope so. His arm tightened. I really hope so. He fell asleep within minutes. I lay there until dawn planning my next move. For 3 days I played perfect wife. Smiled when Julian came home. Wore his preferred dresses. Let him make love to me while cameras recorded our healthy marriage. Ate his meals, asked about his day, pretended to care. The entire time I was testing. Probing the cage boundaries. Tuesday. I want to go to the Art Institute. Julian kissed my forehead. Of course, darling. I'll arrange a private tour this weekend. Not yes go. But I'll control how you experience it. Wednesday. I'd like to have lunch with Mom. That's sweet. But she's been having chest pains. Maybe she should come here instead. Come here. Where cameras could record everything. Thursday, washing dishes. I've been thinking about taking an online architecture course. Julian wrapped his arms around me. I love that you're thinking about your career. But shouldn't you rest first? There's no rush. Each test confirmed, every aspect of my life was controlled. By Friday, I was ready to speak the forbidden word. I chose the moment carefully. Late afternoon, Julian texting he'd be home at 7 o'clock. I stood in the bathroom and looked directly at the ceiling vent camera. Divorce, I whispered. Then I went to the kitchen and waited for consequences. They arrived within 24 hours. Saturday morning, 9:47 a.m. Unknown Chicago number. Mrs. Hale? Dr. Lewis office. We have you down for an emergency session today at 2 o'clock. Can you confirm? I sat down, legs weak. I didn't make an appointment. Your husband called this morning. Quite concerned. Said you'd had a difficult episode last night. What episode? I'm fine. Mrs. Hale, I understand this is difficult to acknowledge. Mr. Hale mentioned you might not remember. I remember everything. I don't need an appointment. Pause. I see. I'll note that. But Mr. Hale was very insistent. Perhaps it would help to discuss his concerns. Of course. I'll discuss it with my husband. I hung up. One word, divorce, and within 12 hours, Julian had manufactured an emergency requiring psychiatric intervention. The second consequence, 11:30 a.m. The intercom buzzed. Mrs. Hale? Your mother is here. I hadn't invited her. Hadn't spoken to her in 2 weeks. Send her up. Evelyn arrived in her Talbot's cardigan, silver hair styled, face creased with permanent worry. She hugged me too tightly. The kind that said, I'm scared for you. Clara, honey. Julian called this morning. Said you had a difficult night. Are you okay? I stepped aside. I'm fine. Julian is overreacting. He said you were talking about ending the marriage. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Baby, what's going on? When did we talk about my job? I interrupted. You and me. When did we have that conversation? She blinked, confused. Well, Julian keeps me updated. What episodes has he told you I've had? Specifically. Evelyn moved to the living room, set down her Michael Kors bag, the one I'd bought her with Julian's money. Everything in her life paid for by the man I wanted to leave. He said you've been having insomnia. Sent concerning messages to friends. Losing weight. Acting paranoid. She patted the couch. Honey, come sit. I remained standing. Did he tell you about the cameras? What cameras? The 11 cameras he installed to watch me. Record me without consent. Did he mention those? Her face went pale. Clara, what are you talking about? There are cameras everywhere. Bedroom, bathroom, my office. He's been filming me for 18 months. Building a case to make me look unstable. My mother stared like I'd grown a second head. Honey, that's not possible. Julian wouldn't do that. He told you mental illness runs in our family, didn't he? Used Aunt Sarah as an example. Well, yes, but that's true. Sarah had problems. She had cancer, Mom. She died of cancer. Not mental illness. Evelyn's hands twisted. I remember her being confused toward the end. The medication. That's not a psychiatric disorder. But Julian needed you to believe it runs in the family, so when I started acting unstable. Which I'm not. You'd think it was genetic instead of manufactured. Clara, listen to yourself. Her voice broke. You sound paranoid. Exactly like Julian said. And there it was. The trap closing perfectly. Mom. I sat beside her, took her hands. Small, fragile. I need you to hear me. Julian has been controlling my life. He convinced me to quit. Isolated me from friends. Been documenting me for conservatorship. Conservatorship? She pulled away. Why would he need that unless you were a danger to yourself? Exactly. Why would he? Because he's planning for when I try to leave. Building legal protection so if I file for divorce, he can have me declared incompetent. The word hung between us. Divorce. My mother's face transformed. Fear, anger, disappointment. You want to divorce Julian. I want to leave a man who has me under surveillance. Who manufactured evidence of mental illness. Who destroyed my career and isolated me. Yes, Mom. I want a divorce. Evelyn stood abruptly. Do you know how selfish you sound? He's given you everything. A beautiful home, security, a life most women would kill for. And you want to throw it away because of paranoid delusions. It's not a delusion. He takes care of me too. Her voice cracked. My heart procedure last year? Insurance wouldn't cover it. I would have died. Julian paid for everything. He saved my life. The insurance policy activated. I know, Mom. That's part of the trap. He made himself indispensable to both of us, so you'll choose him over me. I'm choosing reality over whatever breakdown you're having. I can't watch you destroy your life. She picked up her purse with trembling hands. Your father had problems before he died. Thought people were following him, watching him. Became obsessed with privacy. It got so bad I almost left him. I felt punched. Dad didn't have paranoia. He had a heart condition. Brought on by stress and anxiety. About being monitored, tracked. Honey, it runs in the family. I've been worried it might show up in you. Now Julian has convinced you it has. I stood, shaking. Did you ever think maybe Dad was right? That his paranoia was justified? Oh, Clara. Such profound pity. Please get help. See Dr. Lewis. Take the medication. Don't throw away your marriage. Don't end up alone like I did. You're not alone. You have me. Do I? The only person who's been there for me. Who's kept me alive, kept my house from foreclosure, made sure I have medical care, is Julian. Not you. You haven't called in weeks. The only reason I know what's happening is because your husband cares enough to keep me informed. Every word a perfectly placed knife. He's manipulated both of us. I tried once more. Can't you see? Evelyn walked to the door, turned back. Her face set in that childhood expression. Disappointed, afraid, determined. I'm going to call Julian and tell him you need immediate help. And if you try to fight this, if you try to leave, I will testify in court that mental illness runs in our family. That your father had it. That I see the same patterns in you. Because that's the truth, Clara. Someone needs to save you from yourself. She left. I stood in the empty penthouse and understood my mother had just become Julian's most powerful weapon. The third consequence arrived at 6:30 p.m. Julian came home early, face arranged in practiced concern. Your mom called. She's very worried. I'm sure she is. He sat beside me, took my hand. She told me what you said. About cameras, about feeling monitored. Baby, I think you're having a breakdown. They're not paranoid if they're true. Clara, show me the footage. If there are no cameras, prove me wrong. Something flickered across his face. Calculation. The security system records for safety. After what happened to the Hendersons. What happened to them? I interrupted. Tell me specifically. He blinked. There was a break-in. When? What did they steal? Were police involved? Details, Julian. I don't remember exact. This isn't about them. This is about you making accusations that don't make sense. Then show me the footage. All of it. That's private. Our intimate moments. Exactly. Which you've been filming without consent. Which is illegal, by the way. His expression hardened. Just a second. The mask slipped, something cold and furious underneath. Then gone. Concerned husband again. I think we need to get you professional help. There's a facility in Wisconsin that specializes in... No. Anxiety disorders and paranoid ideation. Very gentle, supportive. Just a few weeks. No. And when you come back, you'll feel better. We can start fresh. Maybe think about a family. I want a divorce. The words hung in the air. Julian went very still. His reaching hand froze. What did you say? I want a divorce. I want to end this marriage. I want you to let me go. For a long moment, silence. Then he smiled, the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. Not angry. Not hurt. Just knowing. No, he said simply. You can't just say no. Actually, I can. Because you're not in a mental state to make that decision. You're experiencing a psychotic break. The delusions, accusations, irrationality, all documented. Documented by you. By medical professionals. By your own behavior. Messages you've sent, weight you've lost, insomnia, mood swings. He went to his briefcase, pulled out a manila folder. I didn't want to show you this. But you're forcing my hand. He set it on the coffee table. I opened it. Legal documents. Conservatorship petition. Medical affidavits from Dr. Lewis describing my deteriorating mental state. Recommending immediate intervention for her own safety. Statement from my mother detailing family history of mental illness. All signed, notarized, ready to file. This is what happens if you try to leave, Julian said quietly. I file these papers. A judge reviews the evidence. You become my legal dependent. No bank account. No credit cards. No right to make medical decisions. I will have complete control, and it will be perfectly legal. My hands shook. You can't do this. I already have. These are copies. Originals are with my attorney. One phone call, and by Monday you're in the Wisconsin facility. Not as a patient who chose treatment, Clara. As someone legally declared incompetent. I stared at him and finally saw the man beneath the mask. Not the charming architect. Not the concerned husband. A predator who'd spent 3 years building a cage, now standing at the door daring me to escape. Why? I whispered. Because I love you. He said it sincerely, like he believed it. I'm not going to let you destroy yourself. You're confused, but you'll understand eventually. When you're better. You'll thank me for saving you. He checked his phone. I have a dinner meeting in an hour. While I'm gone, think carefully about your next move. 2 choices. Accept the help I'm offering, Wisconsin, therapy, support, or force me to take legal action. Either way, you're not leaving. But one option is gentler. He kissed my forehead. I'll be back by 10 o'clock. We can discuss your decision then. I love you, Clara. Everything I do is because I love you. Then he was gone. I sat surrounded by cameras, holding documents that would erase my personhood, and understood the full scope. Julian hadn't just isolated and documented me. He'd built a legal framework to imprison me forever, all in the name of love. I had 3 hours before he returned for my decision, which wasn't a decision. Comply or be committed. Submit or be saved from myself. I looked at the crown molding camera. I need help, I said to whatever ghost might be listening. If anyone is watching who isn't him, if there's any chance someone sees this, I need help. Please. The penthouse remained silent. The cameras kept recording. And I started planning for the only thing I had left. Survival. The knock came at 9:47 a.m. the next morning. I'd spent the night on the couch, unable to bear the thought of that bed with its hidden cameras. Julian had texted at 9:15 p.m., meeting running late. Don't wait up. Love you. I'd responded with a heart emoji, the bare minimum of performance, and then sat in the dark, watching the city lights below, trying to formulate a plan with no resources, no allies, and a legal trap closing around me. Now someone was at the door. I checked the peephole. A Korean man in a black suit, early 30s, carrying a metal toolbox. Buzz-cut hair, the kind of controlled posture that suggested either military or private security. The intercom from the lobby crackled. Mrs. Hale? This is Sloan from Apex Security Solutions. Your husband scheduled an upgrade to your surveillance system. Should I send him up? My stomach dropped. More cameras. Julian was adding more cameras. But what could I say? No, please don't improve the prison I just discovered I'm living in. Send him up, I said, because refusing would raise flags. I opened the door when he knocked. Up close, he was taller than I'd thought, maybe 6'1", with dark eyes that tracked the room with professional assessment before settling on my face. Mrs. Hale. I'm Sloan. Your husband contracted us for a security upgrade. His voice was neutral, efficient. This should take about 3 hours. I'll try to stay out of your way. What kind of upgrade? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Additional coverage in the common areas. Motion sensors. Enhanced recording capabilities. He met my eyes. Your husband mentioned you've been concerned about building security. After the incident with your neighbors. The Hendersons. The incident I couldn't remember because it had never happened. Right, I said. That incident. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Then he was all business again. I'll start in the living room if that's okay. Feel free to go about your day. I retreated to the kitchen, made coffee I didn't want, and watched him work. Sloan moved through the penthouse with methodical precision. Drilling, measuring, running cables through the walls with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. His toolkit was professional grade. Not the cheap hardware store variety, but the kind that suggested serious money behind the operation. He worked in silence for 45 minutes. Then Julian called. I saw Sloane's phone light up first, a brief glance at the screen, before mine rang. Julian's face smiling at me from Positano. Hi, I answered, hyper-aware that Sloane could hear every word. Good morning, darling. How are you feeling? Julian's voice was warm, concerned. The voice of a devoted husband checking on his unstable wife. I'm fine. Is Sloane there? Yes. He's working in the living room. Good. I wanted to make sure he arrived on time. Very professional outfit, Apex. They handle security for half the buildings downtown. A pause. Clara, have you thought about what we discussed last night? The ultimatum. Wisconsin or conservatorship. I glanced toward the living room. Sloane had paused his drilling, but his back was to me. I'm still thinking. That's okay. Take your time. I just want you to be safe, sweetheart. That's all I've ever wanted. Safe. The word tasted like poison. I know, I said. I'll be home around 7 tomorrow. We can talk more then. I love you. Love you too. I hung up and found Sloane standing in the kitchen doorway. I hadn't heard him move. Sorry, he said. Didn't mean to startle you. I need to check the sight lines from this room. He walked to where I stood by the window, pulled out a small device that looked like a laser measure, and began mapping angles. He was close enough that I could smell his cologne, something understated, cedar and leather. Your husband seems very concerned about your safety, he said, eyes on his device. He is. Mentioned you've been having some difficulties. Anxiety, he said. Trouble sleeping. My jaw tightened. He talks about me to security contractors? Standard protocol. We need to understand the household dynamics. Make sure our systems don't add stress. He lowered the device, looked at me directly. He also mentioned you've been worried about being watched. The words hung in the air. I should have deflected. Should have laughed it off, played the anxious wife Julian had described. But something in Sloane's eyes, something almost imperceptibly sympathetic, made me reckless. That's one way to put it, I said quietly. He held my gaze for a long moment, then returned to his measuring. Northwest corner of your bedroom, he said, voice pitched low. The camera angle can't cover the closet if you stand behind the right side of the door. Structural blind spot. Poor installation design. My heart stopped. What? But he'd already moved away, was heading back toward the living room. I'll need about another hour, Mrs. Hale. Then I'll be out of your way. I spent that hour in a state of controlled panic. Had I misheard him? Had he actually just told me there was a blind spot in Julian's surveillance? Or was this some kind of test, Julian using his new security contractor to see if I'd act on information about the cameras? At 11:30, Sloan packed up his equipment. All finished, he said, handing me a tablet. These are the new camera locations. Your husband asked me to review them with you, so you'd feel comfortable with the coverage. I looked at the schematic on screen. Red dots showing camera placement throughout the penthouse. Living room, kitchen, hallways, my office. And yes, the bedroom, with 3 cameras now instead of the original 2. You're adding more in the bedroom? I couldn't keep the tremor out of my voice. Your husband's instructions. His finger traced the screen. This one covers the north wall. This one the south. This one the bathroom entrance. He paused. But see here, this area behind the closet door? No coverage. The angle doesn't work with the existing infrastructure. I mentioned it to Mr. Hale, but he said it wasn't a priority. He zoomed in on that corner of the schematic. Then, so casually it might have been accidental, he tapped the screen twice, highlighting that exact spot. Standard installation limitations, he said, voice still neutral. Every system has them. My phone buzzed. Text from Julian. How's the installation going? Sloane's phone buzzed at the same moment. He pulled it out, read the message, and his entire demeanor shifted. The professional contractor dissolved, replaced by something more deferential, almost subservient. Your husband's checking in, he said, louder than necessary. I'll call him now. He stepped into the hallway, and I heard his voice, respectful, detailed, reporting on the installation like an employee updating his boss. Yes, sir. All cameras operational. Mrs. Hale has been very cooperative. No concerns. Everything's functioning perfectly. When he returned, he was all business again. Mr. Hale wants to make sure you understand how to access the system. May I show you? He pulled out his phone, opened an app, and angled the screen toward me. Live feeds. Every camera in the penthouse accessible from his phone. I could see myself and Sloane standing in the living room from 3 different angles. Your husband has the same access, Sloane said. He can monitor remotely from anywhere. For your protection. The casual cruelty of it, showing me my own surveillance, made me dizzy. I understand, I whispered. Sloane pocketed his phone. I'll leave the equipment manual on the counter. Any questions, Apex Security is available 24/7. He picked up his toolbox, headed for the door. Then paused. Mrs. Hale? One more thing. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a business card, set it on the entry table. This has our customer service number. If you ever have concerns about your system, day or night, we're here to help. His eyes held mine for just a moment too long. Then he was gone. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close. Then I grabbed the card. Standard business card. Apex Security Solutions. A phone number. An email address. And on the back, in tiny handwriting that could almost be mistaken for a smudge. Northwest corner. 8 p.m. Stand where I showed you. I spent the rest of the day in a state of barely controlled terror. Was this a trap? Had Julian planted Sloane to see if I'd take the bait? To prove I was paranoid, seeing conspiracies, making contact with strangers who offered help? Or was it real? Was there actually someone, a security contractor of all people, who'd recognized what Julian was doing and was offering? What? Information? Help? An escape route? I couldn't decide which possibility was more terrifying. At 7 p.m., Julian came home with Thai takeout from my supposed favorite place. The one that made everything too spicy, that I'd said was good once to avoid disappointing him. How was Sloane? He asked, unpacking containers. Very professional, right? I've used Apex for years. They handle all the high-security installations downtown. He seemed very thorough. Good. I want you to feel safe here, Clara. Especially with everything you've been going through. He handed me a plate. Did he show you the new bedroom coverage? I know you were worried about gaps in the system. I hadn't been worried. Julian had manufactured that concern like he'd manufactured everything else. He showed me, I said. And you feel better? I feel like I'm being buried alive. Much better, I lied. We ate dinner. Julian talked about his day, a client meeting, some zoning dispute, office politics I was supposed to care about. I made appropriate sounds, asked follow-up questions, played the attentive wife. The entire time I watched the clock. 7:45. At 7:50, I excused myself to the bathroom. That curry isn't sitting well. Julian's face creased with concern. Do you want some Pepto? I can get it. No, I'm fine. Just need a few minutes. I locked the bathroom door, one of the few rooms without a camera, though there was probably a microphone somewhere, and stood there counting my heartbeats. At 7:58, I walked to the bedroom. Julian was in the living room, absorbed in his laptop. You okay? He called. Just going to lie down for a bit. Still not feeling great. Want me to come sit with you? No. God, no. I'm fine. Just need rest. I closed the bedroom door. 8 p.m. I walked to the northwest corner of the room, to the walk-in closet, and positioned myself exactly where Sloane had indicated, behind the right side of the door. I stood there, feeling ridiculous, feeling terrified, My phone vibrated. Text from an unknown number. Don't move. Don't look at your phone. Just listen. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. Another text. Your husband hired me to watch you. I've been watching him instead. I forced myself to stay still, to keep my breathing normal. There are 14 cameras now, not 11. The 3 I added today have a feature he doesn't know about. I can disable them remotely. Right now, you're in the only blind spot in the entire penthouse. This is the only place we can talk without him knowing. Another vibration. I'm not asking you to trust me, but I'm asking you to let me help you get out. Because I watched my mother die in a situation exactly like yours, and I couldn't save her. I can save you. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. If you want my help, text back yes. If you want me to leave you alone, delete these messages and forget this conversation. Your choice. I stared at the screen. This could be Julian. This could be an elaborate test. This could be the final piece of evidence he needed to have me committed. Proof I was making contact with strangers, acting on paranoid delusions, believing in rescue fantasies. Or it could be real. A stranger who saw what Julian was doing, who had access to the surveillance system, who was offering me the only thing I didn't have. An ally. I thought about the conservatorship papers, about my mother testifying against me, about Marcus believing I was insane, about 18 months of documentation that would make any judge question my competence. I thought about the Wisconsin facility Julian had already paid for. I thought about spending the rest of my life as a legal dependent, a ward of my husband's care, a woman erased. I typed one word, yes. The response came immediately, good. From now on, I'm going to teach you how to act for the cameras, how to say what he wants to hear, how to make him believe you're complying, while we systematically dismantle every piece of control he has over you. But you have to follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that? Yes. We have 30 days. After that, he's scheduled your conservatorship hearing. Can you pretend to be the wife he wants for 30 days? I thought about Julian in the living room, about sleeping beside him every night, about smiling and performing and making myself smaller while a stranger taught me how to escape. Yes. One more thing. Don't try to figure out who I am or why I'm doing this. Don't ask questions. Don't deviate from the plan. And never, ever contact me unless you're in this blind spot. Understood? Understood. Good. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., you're going to call Dr. Lewis and schedule that appointment Julian wanted. You're going to be the concerned wife seeking help. I'll tell you exactly what to say. But right now, you need to go back out there and be grateful for dinner. Be tired. Be fragile. Be everything he expects. The final text, you're not alone anymore, Clara. But he can't know that. Starting now, you're an actress playing the role of your life. And I'm your director. I deleted the message thread, pocketed my phone, and walked out of the closet. My face in the bedroom mirror looked pale, drawn. Perfect for a woman not feeling well. I opened the bedroom door. Clara? Julian's voice, concerned. You okay? I think I'm going to be sick. He appeared in the doorway immediately, all solicitude. Let me get you some ginger ale. Come lie down. He tucked me into bed like I was a child. Brought me ginger ale and crackers. Stroked my hair. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, sweetheart. But I'm glad you're letting me take care of you. I closed my eyes and let him care for me. And for the first time in 18 months, I wasn't performing out of fear. I was performing with purpose. The text came at 1:47 p.m. the next day. I was in the blind spot. The northwest corner had become my confessional, my only private space in a penthouse designed to eliminate privacy, when my phone vibrated. Call Dr. Lewis' office at 2 p.m. Tell them you've thought about your husband's concerns and you'd like to schedule that appointment. Be apologetic. Be worried about yourself. Use the phrase, "I think Julian might be right about me needing help." Can you do that? My hands shook as I typed back, "Yes." Good. After you schedule it, text Julian to tell him. He needs to believe you're complying. This is important. You're not actually going to that appointment. But he needs to think you are. Why? The response was immediate, because right now he's watching to see if you'll fight him or submit. We need him to believe you're submitting. It buys us time to work. Trust the process. I made the call at exactly 2 p.m., sitting on the couch where 3 cameras could capture my compliant performance. Dr. Lewis' office. Hi, this is Clara Hale. I called a few days ago. About the appointment? I let my voice crack slightly. I've been thinking about what my husband said, and I think Julian might be right about me needing help. Could we schedule that session? The receptionist's voice warmed immediately. Of course, Mrs. Hale. We're so glad you called back. Dr. Luya has an opening tomorrow at 3 p.m. Would that work? Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate it. When I hung up, I immediately texted Julian. I called Dr. Lewis. Appointment tomorrow at 3. You were right. I do need help. His response came within 30 seconds. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. This is the first step to feeling better. I love you so much. I stared at the message, at his manipulation dressed up as support, and felt something harden in my chest. The next text came from the unknown number. Perfect. Now go to the bedroom blind spot. We need to talk. In the closet corner, I found a new message waiting. You did well. Now here's what happens tomorrow. You're going to get dressed for the appointment. Leave the penthouse. But you're not going to Dr. Lewis' office. You're going to the Harold Washington Library. Main reading room, 2nd floor, northeast corner. 3:15 p.m. I'll meet you there. My heart raced. Julian will track me. He has my phone location. I know. That's why you're going to accidentally leave your phone in the Uber. You'll realize it 10 minutes after you get to the library, panic, and call me from a library phone to help you locate it. I'll find it and bring it to you. By the time Julian checks your location, you'll be exactly where you said you'd be, at Dr. Lewis' office. The timeline will work. This is insane. This is necessary. You need to understand what you're up against before you can fight it. See you tomorrow at 3:15. Dress like you're going to therapy, professional, put together, the version of yourself Julian approves of. The next day, I played my role perfectly. At 2:30, I emerged from the bedroom in a cream-colored blouse and tailored pants. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back. The armor of a woman seeking help. Julian had come home early to drive me, but I'd anticipated that. I appreciate the offer, I said carefully, but I think I need to do this myself. Dr. Lewis said it's important for me to take ownership of my treatment. Something flickered across Julian's face, disappointment that he couldn't monitor the session directly, but he covered it quickly. Of course. You're right. I'm proud of you, Clara. He kissed my forehead. Text me when it's over. I will. The Uber driver was a woman in her 60s who talked about her grandchildren the entire ride. I made appropriate sounds, clutched my purse, and when we stopped 2 blocks from Dr. Lewis' office, I said, "Actually, could you take me to the library instead? I need to do some research first." She adjusted the route without question. At 3:12, I stepped out of the car at the Harold Washington Library. At 3:13, I realized my phone was on the back seat. At 3:14, the Uber pulled away before I could flag it down. I stood on the sidewalk, phoneless, and felt genuinely panicked, which was good, because if Julian checked the footage from my Uber's dashcam later, he'd see authentic distress. Inside the library, I found a public phone near the bathrooms. Dialed the number from Sloane's business card, which I'd memorized. Apex Security, this is Sloane. It's Clara Hale. I left my phone in my Uber and I'm at the library and I don't know what to do. The panic in my voice was real. Slow down, Mrs. Hale. Deep breath. What library? Harold Washington. I was supposed to be at an appointment, but I needed to think first, and now I don't have my phone and Julian is going to. It's okay. I can track your phone through the home security system if you authorized emergency location access. Give me 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hung up and went to the 2nd floor reading room. The northeast corner was deserted. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked State Street. Massive wooden tables. The smell of old books and floor polish. At 3:22, Sloane appeared. He looked different out of the black suit, jeans, a dark Henley, a jacket that probably concealed more than just keys and a wallet. He carried my phone. Found the driver, he said, voice pitched for any observers. She was very apologetic. Thank God. I reached for the phone, and he handed it over. Then quieter. Follow me. He led me deeper into the stacks, to a study room in the back that was blissfully empty. Closed the door. Pulled the shade over the window. 45 minutes, he said. That's how long we have before Julian starts wondering why therapy is taking so long. I sat down in one of the chairs, my legs suddenly weak. Who are you? My name is Sloan. That part is real. I do work for Apex Security. I'm a senior installation specialist. But I also do freelance work for people who need to disappear. Why are you helping me? His jaw tightened. 3 years ago, my mother called me. She was being pressured into staying with a man who'd been abusing her for 5 years. He'd convinced everyone, her family, her doctors, her friends, that she was mentally unstable, that she needed him to function. She asked me to help her leave. He paused, staring at his hands. I told her I'd figure something out. I had a client meeting. I said I'd call her back in a few hours. What happened? He filed for conservatorship that afternoon. Had her committed to a psychiatric facility that evening. She tried to escape 3 days later, climbed out a second-story window. She fell wrong. Traumatic brain injury. His voice was flat, emotionless. She's been in a vegetative state for 3 years. The man who put her there is still her legal guardian. He visits her every week to maintain appearances. My stomach turned. I'm so sorry. I've spent 3 years studying how men like him operate, how they build legal traps, how they use the system to imprison women while calling it care. He finally looked at me. When your husband called Apex to upgrade your surveillance, I looked into him. Took me about an hour to see the pattern. The cameras, the isolation, the medical documentation, the mother who's financially dependent. It's textbook coercive control. So you're doing this for revenge? I'm doing this because I see my mother in you. And this time, I'm not 12 hours too late. The rawness in his voice made my throat tight. What do you get out of helping me? I asked. Satisfaction. And knowledge. Every time I help someone escape one of these situations, I learn something new about how to dismantle them. Your husband is particularly sophisticated. The way he's layered the financial control, the medical documentation, the social isolation. If I can break his system, I can use that playbook to help others. So I'm a case study. You're a person who deserves to be free. The case study is a bonus. He pulled out a tablet, opened a file. Here's what you're up against. He showed me spreadsheets, documents, timelines. Everything Julian had built over 3 years. Your husband has been planning this since before you married him. The cameras started going in during your honeymoon. He had them installed while you were in Italy. He began making payments to your mother 6 months before he proposed, establishing that financial dependency before you even knew it existed. I felt sick. He planned this from the beginning. Men like him always do. They don't fall in love and then become controlling. They see someone they want to possess, and they systematically build a cage around her. He swiped to another document. Here's his timeline for the conservatorship. The hearing is scheduled for 30 days from now. He's already lined up 3 medical experts to testify about your mental state. He's got your mother prepared to discuss family history. He's documented 18 months of concerning behavior, all of it either manufactured or taken out of context. Can we fight it in court? Not directly. He's got too much documentation, too many expert witnesses, and the burden of proof in conservatorship cases is surprisingly low. He doesn't have to prove you're dangerous, just that you're unable to make sound decisions. Your own mother testifying against you will be devastating. Then what do we do? Sloan smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. We don't fight his case. We destroy his credibility. By the time we're done, Julian Hale won't be in a position to file anything. How? Systematically. First, we need to document his crimes. The illegal surveillance, the financial manipulation, the fraud. Then we need to expose the fake medical evidence. Then we need to protect your assets. Right now, everything is in joint accounts he controls. And finally, we need to break his social credibility. His professional reputation is built on being the humanitarian architect, the devoted husband. We show people who he really is. I thought about Julian's firm, his clients, the charitable boards he sat on. That's going to take weeks. We have 30 days. It's doable, but we have to move fast. He pulled out a small device, looked like a hearing aid. Starting tomorrow, you're going to wear this whenever you're in the penthouse. It's an earpiece. I'll be able to hear everything that's happening, and I can coach you through difficult conversations with Julian. You'll also use it to record him. Anything he says that's coercive, threatening, manipulative. We need audio of him being what he really is. He'll see it. Not this one. It fits completely inside your ear canal. Invisible unless someone is specifically looking for it. I'll show you how to insert it. He demonstrated on himself, and I watched the tiny device disappear. You'll go to that fake therapy appointment next week, he continued. But you'll actually be meeting with a real psychiatrist I've arranged, one who specializes in abuse cases. She'll document your actual mental state, provide a counter-evaluation to Dr. Lewis' fraud. Then we're going to start bleeding Julian's accounts. I don't have access to his money. No, but I have connections to people who can make money disappear. Your husband has been moving funds offshore, probably preparing to hide assets in case of divorce. We're going to accelerate that process. Make it look like his own financial mismanagement. That's illegal. So is what he's doing to you. The question is, do you want to fight fair and lose or fight dirty and survive? I thought about the conservatorship papers, about my mother choosing Julian over me, about spending the rest of my life as a legal dependent. Dirty, I said. Good. He checked his watch. You need to get to Dr. Lewis' office. Stay in the waiting room for exactly 45 minutes, long enough for a therapy session. Don't actually go in. If anyone asks, say you're early and you're reading. Then leave, go home, tell Julian it was hard but helpful. Can you do that? Yes. And Clara? His expression softened slightly. I know this is terrifying. I know you don't have any reason to trust me. But I need you to understand something. You're not weak for being in this situation. You're not stupid. Julian is a predator who spent 3 years building a perfect trap. The fact that you recognized it and asked for help, that's the hardest part. Everything else is just strategy. My eyes burned with unexpected tears. Thank you. Thank me when you're free. Wondering how someone could plan this level of control? Drop a comment if you've ever recognized manipulation too late. Clara's fight is just beginning, and if you want to see her win, hit that like button and subscribe. I spent exactly 45 minutes in Dr. Lewis' waiting room, pretending to read a magazine while my heart hammered. Then I went home and told Julian it had been difficult, but the doctor was very understanding. I'm so proud of you, Julian said, pulling me into his arms. This is exactly what you need, sweetheart. Dr. Lewis is going to help you so much. I let him hold me, and I thought about the earpiece Sloane had given me, hidden in my purse. Starting tomorrow, I would wear it. Starting tomorrow, Julian's every word would be recorded. Starting tomorrow, the woman he'd spent 3 years training to be helpless was going to learn how to fight back. The earpiece felt like a foreign object for the first 3 hours. I kept touching my ear, convinced everyone could see it, that Julian would notice the tiny intrusion and know immediately what I was doing. But Sloane had been right. It was invisible. I'd inserted it that morning in the bathroom, the one room with no camera, following his texted instructions precisely. Push it in gently until you feel slight pressure. It should settle into your ear canal. You won't be able to see it even looking directly in the mirror. He was right. Even knowing it was there, I couldn't see it. At 9:47 a.m., I was making coffee when I heard his voice, so clear he might have been standing next to me. Good morning, Clara. If you can hear me, cough once. I coughed. Perfect. From now on, I'm always listening when you're in the penthouse. You don't need to respond to me verbally. I can see you on the cameras I installed. If you need to signal yes, touch your left ear. No, touch your right ear. Understand? I touched my left ear. Good. Today's lesson is simple. Be the wife Julian wants to see. Compliant, grateful, slightly fragile. You're making progress in therapy, feeling better about getting help. When he comes home tonight, I want you to thank him for pushing you to see Dr. Lewis. Can you do that? Left ear. Excellent. Now go about your day normally. I'll only talk to you when necessary. But I'm here. The voice fell silent, and I stood in my kitchen holding a coffee mug, realizing I'd just invited a stranger to monitor my every moment. But unlike Julian, Sloane had asked permission. Julian came home at 7:15 with flowers. White roses, my supposed favorite, though I'd actually told him once I preferred peonies, and he'd somehow never remembered. For my strong, brave wife, he said, kissing me. How are you feeling? This was my moment. Sloane's voice had coached me through the afternoon. When he asks how you're feeling, be vulnerable but hopeful. Tell him therapy is hard but necessary. Make him believe you're buying into his narrative. Better, I think. I took the flowers, found a vase. The session with Dr. Lewis was intense. But you were right. I do need help. Julian's face lit up. I'm so glad you're seeing that, sweetheart. What did you talk about? Sloane's voice in my ear. Keep it vague. Therapy is confidential, even fake therapy. Give him just enough to feel included, but not enough to verify. Just some of my anxieties. The insomnia. How I've been feeling disconnected. I arranged the roses carefully. Dr. Lewis thinks I might have some unresolved trauma from losing my dad. That I've been struggling with control issues because I couldn't control that. It was brilliant, really, giving Julian exactly what he wanted to hear. That my problems were old trauma, not his systematic abuse. That I needed professional help, not freedom. That makes so much sense, Julian said, pulling me into his arms. Your father's death affected you so deeply. I've always thought you never properly processed it. In my ear, Sloane's voice was cold. He's going to use this. Build on it. Let him. Maybe you're right, I said against Julian's chest. Maybe I've been projecting fear onto our relationship because I'm afraid of losing someone I love again. Oh, sweetheart. Julian stroked my hair. You're never going to lose me. I'm here. I'm always here. That's why I push you to get help, because I want you to feel safe. To know that I'm not going anywhere. Record that, Sloane said in my ear. The way he's framing his control is care. That's evidence. The earpiece was recording everything automatically, I realized. Every word Julian said, every manipulation disguised as love. We had dinner. I asked about his day, a client presentation, some zoning issue with a project in Lincoln Park. I listened attentively, asked follow-up questions, played the supportive wife. And the entire time, Sloane was in my ear, occasionally offering quiet guidance. When he mentions the client, ask about the budget. Make him feel like you care about his work. He's watching to see if you'll eat. Eat normally. Don't give him ammunition about the eating disorder he's inventing. Touch his hand when he talks about the zoning issue. Small gestures of affection keep him confident. I followed every instruction, and by the time we went to bed, Julian was relaxed. Happy. Convinced his plan was working. After he fell asleep, I lay there listening to his breathing, and Sloane's voice came through soft and clear. You did perfectly today. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start Phase 2. Phase 2 began with a phone call. At 10 a.m., while Julian was at work and I was supposedly resting, Sloane's voice said, Go to the blind spot. We need to talk. In the closet corner I found a text. You're going to call your mother. Tell her you've been thinking about what she said. That you're getting help. That you want to have lunch with her this weekend. But at her house, not yours. Tell her you want to apologize for how you acted. Why her house? Because we need to plant doubt in her mind about Julian without triggering her defensive loyalty. In your penthouse, she's on his territory. In her house, she's more likely to really hear you. Plus, it gets you out of the surveillance zone. I called my mother. Clara? She sounded surprised, hopeful. Hi, Mom. I wanted to apologize for the other day. You were right. I have been struggling, and I took it out on you. Oh, honey. Her voice softened immediately. I'm just worried about you. I know. And I'm getting help. I've started seeing Dr. Lewis, and it's already helping me see things more clearly. I paused. Make it sound like Julian's idea, Sloane had instructed. Julian was right to push me. I'm so glad to hear that, baby. I was wondering if we could have lunch this Saturday. At your place? I'd like to spend some time with you. Just us. Of course. I'd love that. After I hung up, Sloane's voice. Perfect. Now we wait for Julian to come home, and you tell him about the lunch. He'll love that you're reconnecting with your mother. It reinforces his narrative that you're getting better, becoming more rational. Saturday came. Julian dropped me off at my mother's house in the 3rd Ward. A small bungalow he'd been paying the mortgage on for 3 years. Take your time, he said, kissing me. It's good for you to spend time with her. Just call when you're ready to be picked up. I watched him drive away, then turned to find my mother waiting on the porch. Inside, the house smelled like it always had, vanilla candles and the faint scent of the lavender she kept in sachets. We made sandwiches together in the kitchen, and for a few minutes it felt almost normal. Then she said, You look better, honey. Less thin. More like yourself. I'm trying. I sat down at the kitchen table. Therapy is helping. I'm so glad. Julian told me you were resistant at first. Of course he did. I was scared. But he was patient with me. In my ear, Sloane said, Now, ask her about the house payments. Casual. Like you're just curious. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. How long has Julian been helping with your mortgage? Her face went careful. A few years. Since before you were married, actually. I was going through a rough patch after the school district cut my pension, and he offered to help. Why? No reason. I didn't know it had been that long. He's a generous man, Clara. That's why I get so worried when you talk about him the way you did. He's been nothing but good to our family. Sloane's voice. Plant the seed. Don't push. Just plant it. Do you ever worry that accepting his help makes it hard to see him clearly? I asked quietly. She stiffened. What do you mean? I mean, if he's supporting you financially, doesn't that make you dependent on him? And doesn't that make it harder to take my side if I have concerns about our marriage? Clara Marie, are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Mom. I'm just thinking out loud. In therapy, Dr. Lewis asked me about family dynamics. About who has power in relationships. It made me wonder. My mother set down her sandwich. Julian helps me because he loves you. Because we're family. Not because he's trying to manipulate anyone. You're probably right. I backed off just as Sloane had instructed. I'm sorry. Therapy is making me question everything. I shouldn't have brought it up. But the seed was planted. I could see it in her face, just a flicker of uncertainty. Not enough to change her mind, but enough to make her think. We finished lunch talking about safer topics. But when Julian picked me up 2 hours later, I saw my mother watching from the porch with a different expression. Not quite trust. Not quite suspicion. Just the beginning of doubt. In my ear as we drove away, Sloane said, "Well done. Now we let that doubt grow." The next week was a careful choreography of small victories. Tuesday, I went to my second therapy session. Actually a meeting with Dr. Sarah Martinez, the real psychiatrist Sloane had arranged. She evaluated me for 2 hours, documented that I showed no signs of mental illness, noted evidence of psychological abuse and coercive control. Her report would be our counter to Dr. Lewis' fraud. Wednesday, Sloane's voice guided me through a dinner party Julian had arranged with his business partners. Smile when Richard talks about his golf game. Laugh at Thomas's joke even though it's not funny. When someone asks about your therapy, be grateful but brief. You're doing so much better thanks to Julian's support. I performed flawlessly. By the end of the night, Julian's partners were complimenting him on how well I looked, how much better I seemed. One of them even pulled Julian aside. I heard it through my earpiece when I went to the bathroom. "You're doing a great job with her, man. Clara seems so much more stable than last time we saw her." Julian's response. "It's been a lot of work. But she's worth it." "Record that," Sloane said in my ear. "The way he talks about you like a project, not a partner." Thursday, a breakthrough. Julian left his laptop open while he took a shower. Sloane's voice. Quick. His email. Find the messages between him and the Wisconsin facility. We need proof he's been planning your commitment. My hands shook as I navigated to his sent folder. Found the messages to Meadowbrook Psychiatric Care. Forwarded them to an email address Sloane had set up, deleted the forwarding evidence, closed the laptop seconds before Julian emerged from the bathroom. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" he asked, toweling his hair. "Perfect," I said, smiling. "Just checking my email." But we had the proof. Julian had paid a $25,000 deposit for a 6-month stay. Had discussed patient management protocols for someone with resistant tendencies. Had asked about visitation restrictions. He'd been planning to lock me up. Literally. Friday, the money started moving. Sloane's connections, people I never met, would never know, began bleeding Julian's offshore accounts. Small amounts at first. Then larger. Transfers that looked like his own financial mismanagement. By the end of the day, he'd lost $200,000 in what appeared to be a bad investment. I was in the kitchen when I heard him on the phone with his accountant, voice tight with stress. "What do you mean the Singapore account is empty? That's not possible. Those funds were secured." In my ear, Sloane's voice held grim satisfaction. "And so it begins. If you've ever had to hide who you really are just to survive, drop a comment. Because Clara is about to face her biggest test yet. And the performance is about to get much, much harder. Don't miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button and tell me where you are watching from." That night, Julian was distracted. Stressed. He barely touched his dinner. "Everything okay?" I asked the concerned wife. "Just work problems. Nothing for you to worry about. Let him keep his secrets," Sloane advised. "The more isolated he feels, the more mistakes he'll make." I nodded, didn't push, and later that night when Julian made love to me, I closed my eyes and thought about the fact that in 3 weeks, we'd have enough evidence to destroy him. The cameras recorded us. The earpiece captured every sound. And somewhere across the city, Sloane was documenting it all. building our case, planning our escape, teaching me that the opposite of helplessness isn't just strength, it's strategy. Clara just learned that love isn't about control, it's about choice. If you're invested in seeing her win, hit that like button right now. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share it. Because the next chapter shows exactly what happens when a predator realizes he's losing control. And it's intense. The text arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks into my performance. I was in the blind spot, checking in with Sloan as I did every morning now, when a message appeared from a number I didn't recognize. Stop fighting him. I was his first wife. He won. I'm only texting you this because I survived by not surviving. Disappear or die. Before I could screenshot it, the message deleted itself. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. In my ear, Sloane's voice turned sharp. What just happened? Your heart rate spiked. I typed quickly. Someone just warned me. Said she was Julian's first wife. Get out of the blind spot. Act normal. I'm pulling records now. I walked to the kitchen, made coffee with trembling hands, and waited. 10 minutes later, Sloane. Her name was Rachel Winters. Married Julian for 14 months, 2015 to 2016. Divorce was sealed. I'm working on getting the records, but preliminary search shows she filed a restraining order that was later withdrawn. She's been off-grid since 2017. No social media, minimal digital footprint. Someone who's hiding. From him. Probably. The question is, how did she know to contact you? Someone told her you exist. I thought about Julian's patterns, his networks, the web of control he'd built. He probably uses the same doctors, the same tactics. Maybe she saw my name somewhere. Or someone in his circle warned her you were in danger. Either way, we need to talk to her. But not today, we're too close to the conservatorship hearing. We can't risk Julian noticing you're making contact with his ex-wife. The hearing. 2 weeks away now. 2 weeks until Julian would try to legally erase me. Did we get enough? I asked aloud, forgetting for a moment that I couldn't speak to Sloane except in the blind spot. His answer came anyway. Almost. But we need one more piece. Your mother. She has to flip, or at minimum, refuse to testify against you. Right now, she's his strongest weapon. That night, I cooked dinner. Julian's favorite, ossobuco that took 3 hours and made the penthouse smell like a home instead of a prison. He came through the door at 7 o'clock looking exhausted, and his face softened when he saw the table set. You made ossobuco? He kissed me. What's the occasion? No occasion. I just wanted to do something nice for you. You've been so stressed lately. The financial bleeding had accelerated. In 3 weeks, Sloane's people had made nearly $800,000 disappear from Julian's accounts. Enough to rattle him, not enough to make him suspect sabotage. He thought it was bad investments, market volatility, his accountant's incompetence. You're amazing, you know that? Julian pulled me close. I don't tell you that enough. These past few weeks, watching you get better, seeing you become yourself again, it reminds me why I fell in love with you. In my ear, Sloane's voice was ice. Record this. The gaslighting. He's taking credit for your recovery from an illness he invented. I have you to thank, I said softly, for pushing me to get help, for not giving up on me. Julian's eyes actually misted. I could never give up on you, Clara. You're everything to me. We ate dinner. I asked about his day, listened to him vent about a difficult client, about the financial irregularities his accountant couldn't explain. I made sympathetic sounds, refilled his wine, played the supportive wife. And after dinner, when he'd relaxed into the couch with a scotch, I said, Can I ask you something? Anything. Were you married before? Before me. His entire body went still. Just for a second. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Where did that come from? I was organizing files on your laptop. You said I could use it for my design research, and I saw some old documents. A name I didn't recognize. Rachel Winters. The lie came easily now. 3 weeks of Sloane coaching me through deception had made me fluent in it. Rachel. Julian took a long drink. That was a long time ago. A mistake. What happened? She had problems. Mental health issues. I tried to help her, but she was resistant to treatment. Eventually, I had to accept that I couldn't save her. His voice carried practiced sadness. The divorce was messy. She made a lot of accusations, none of them true. It's why I don't talk about it. Liar, Sloane said in my ear. He's describing you. This is his pattern. I'm sorry, I said. That must have been painful. It was. But it taught me something important. That you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. That's why I'm so grateful you accepted treatment, Clara. You didn't make the same mistake she did. The audacity of it took my breath away. He'd just told me his previous wife had been exactly where I was now, had fought him, had made accusations, and he'd positioned her resistance as mental illness instead of survival. And he expected me to feel grateful that I'd been more compliant. What happened to her? I asked. After the divorce? I don't know. She disappeared. Moved away, changed her name maybe. I hope she found peace. He set down his glass, pulled me into his arms. But that's ancient history. I have you now. And you're getting better. We're building a real future together. In my ear, perfect. We have him on record admitting to a previous wife with the same mental health issues he's claiming you have. Pattern evidence. Now drop it. Don't push further. I let Julian hold me, and I thought about Rachel Winters, wherever she was. Another woman who'd survived him by not surviving, by erasing herself, going off-grid, becoming a ghost. I didn't want to become a ghost. I wanted to destroy him. The next morning I called my mother. Can you come over for coffee? Just us. Julian's at work. Of course, honey. Is everything okay? I just need to talk to you about something. Nothing bad. I promise. She arrived an hour later, and I'd prepared everything carefully. Coffee the way she liked it. The good cookies from the bakery she loved. The living room arranged to look casual, comfortable, not staged. We were being recorded. I knew that. But Sloane had said, use the cameras. Let Julian see you having a good relationship with your mother. Let him think everything is going according to his plan. How are you feeling? My mother asked, settling onto the couch. Better. The therapy is really helping. I paused. Mom, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Can you do that? Her face went wary. Okay. I love you. And I know you love me. And I know you've been worried about me, genuinely worried, not just because Julian told you to be. Of course I have. Let me finish. Please. I took a breath. I've been doing a lot of work in therapy. Thinking about patterns, about family dynamics, about what love actually looks like. And I realized something important. Love doesn't mean protecting someone from the truth. It means helping them see clearly, even when it's uncomfortable. What are you saying? I'm saying that Julian has been paying your mortgage for 3 years. Your medical bills. Your property taxes. Everything. And I think that's affected your ability to see our marriage objectively. My mother's face flushed. We've been through this. I'm not accusing you of anything, Mom. I'm just asking you to think about what it means. If Julian is supporting you financially, and I tell you I'm unhappy in my marriage, where does that put you? Can you afford to take my side? This isn't about sides. It is, though. Because in 2 weeks, there's going to be a conservatorship hearing. Julian is going to try to have me declared legally incompetent. And he's counting on you to testify that mental illness runs in our family. That I'm unstable just like Dad supposedly was. Evelyn's eyes went wide. The hearing is in 2 weeks? He told me it was months away, that it was just a precaution. He lied to you, Mom. He's been lying to both of us. She stood up, agitated. Clara, you're twisting things again. Am I? Then why did he tell you a different timeline? Why is he rushing this through if I'm getting so much better from therapy? My mother opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time, I saw real uncertainty cross her face. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to ask yourself one question. If Julian weren't paying your bills, would you still think he was right about me? Silence. Long and painful. Then, that's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. But it's real. And in 2 weeks, you're going to have to decide. Are you testifying for him because you genuinely believe I'm mentally ill? Or because you're afraid of what happens to you if you don't? Evelyn grabbed her purse. I need to go. This conversation is... I can't do this right now. Okay. But think about what I said. Please. She paused at the door. Are you taking your medication? What medication? Julian said Dr. Lewis prescribed something for anxiety. Dr. Lewis has never prescribed me anything, Mom. There is no medication. I could see the doubt spreading across her face now, wider cracks in Julian's carefully constructed narrative. I really need to go, she whispered. After she left, I sat on the couch and waited for Sloane's assessment. His voice came through measured. That was risky. Julian's going to watch that footage. He's going to see you planting doubt in your mother's mind. I know, but we're out of time. If she testifies against me in 2 weeks. I understand. You made the right call. Now we see if it works. Julian came home early that afternoon. Your mother called me, he said, and his voice was tight. Controlled, but barely. She said you had an upsetting conversation. That you're questioning your treatment again. I'm not questioning treatment. I'm questioning why you told her the hearing was months away when it's actually in 2 weeks. His jaw tightened. I didn't want to stress either of you with exact timelines. You mean you didn't want her to know how rushed this is? How aggressive? Clara. He came closer, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something dangerous in his eyes. I've been very patient with you. Very understanding. I've supported your therapy, given you space to process, trusted that you were making genuine progress. But this, undermining me to your mother, making accusations, this tells me you're not actually getting better. You're just getting better at hiding your symptoms. In my ear, Sloane's voice turned urgent, de-escalate. Now, you pushed too hard. Walk it back. But I was tired of walking things back. Tired of performing. Tired of being smaller. What if I'm not sick, Julian? What if I'm just a woman who wants out of a controlling marriage? His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, he was too careful for that, but firm enough to make his point. You don't know what you want. That's the whole problem. That's why you need help. Why you need me. Let go of my wrist. Or what? You'll leave? You'll file for divorce? He smiled, and it was the predator smile I'd seen the night of his ultimatum. You can't leave, Clara. You signed a prenuptial agreement that gives you nothing. Your mother depends on me. Your friends think you're crazy. Your medical records show 18 months of deteriorating mental health. You have no money, no job, no support system. Where exactly would you go? In my ear, Sloane's voice was cold as winter. Stay calm. Let him talk. This is evidence. I would go anywhere you're not, I said quietly. Julian's grip tightened. The hearing is in 2 weeks. I've been trying to do this gently, trying to help you see that voluntary treatment is better for everyone. But if you force my hand, I will have you committed. Your mother will testify. Dr. Lewis will testify. My attorneys will present evidence of paranoid ideation, delusional thinking, inability to care for yourself. And a judge will agree that you need protection from your own poor judgment. Protection. Is that what you call it? I call it love. He released my wrist, stepped back. I have loved you from the moment I met you, Clara. Everything I've done has been to keep you safe. To keep us together. I won't apologize for that. You've been planning this since before we married. The cameras, the payments to my mother, all of it. You built a cage and called it love. Something flickered across his face. Surprise that I knew, maybe, or satisfaction that I finally understood the scope of what he'd built. I built a life for us. A beautiful life. And if you can't see that, if you're determined to destroy what we have, then yes, I will protect you from yourself. Even if you hate me for it. He walked to the bedroom, and I heard the door close. I stood in the living room, my wrist aching where he'd grabbed it, and touched my left ear. Did you get it? I whispered to the earpiece. Sloane's voice came back fierce. Every word. He just confessed to premeditated coercive control. We have him, Clara. We finally have him. Have you ever been told that someone hurt you because they love you? That's not love, that's control. If this story is hitting close to home, know that you deserve better. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. And if you want to see Clara fight back with everything she has, stay with us. Because the final confrontation is coming. That night, Julian didn't come to bed. I found him in his study at 2 a.m., staring at his laptop, and when I asked if he was okay, he said, I'm protecting our assets. Making sure that when this is over, when you're better, we still have a life to come back to. He thought he was securing his empire. He didn't know Sloane's people had been bleeding it dry for 3 weeks. He didn't know that every dollar he tried to protect was already disappearing into accounts he'd never trace. He didn't know that while he'd been building a cage, I'd been learning how to pick every lock. 2 weeks, I thought. 2 weeks until the hearing. 2 weeks until we showed him what a woman with nothing left to lose could do. The first crack appeared on a Wednesday morning, 9 days before the conservatorship hearing. Julian's phone rang at 6:47 a.m., early enough that we were both still in bed. He grabbed it quickly, voice rough with sleep. Hale. Then his face went pale. What do you mean suspended? On what grounds? I pretended to sleep, but through my earpiece, Sloane's voice whispered. The medical board just received an anonymous complaint about Dr. Lewis. Fraudulent documentation, unethical patient relationships, practicing outside his specialty. They're investigating. All his active cases are frozen. Julian was out of bed now, pacing in his underwear. Jim, he's a licensed psychiatrist. How can they just? He listened, his jaw tightening. Fine. Find me another expert. We have 9 days. Someone credible who can review the documentation and testify. He hung up and I woke up. Everything okay? Work problem. The lie came automatically. Go back to sleep. But he was rattled. I could see it in the way he dressed, pulling on clothes with jerky movements, forgetting to put on his watch, leaving for the office without his usual kiss goodbye. After he left, I went to the blind spot. Sloane's text was waiting. Phase 2, financial collapse. His accountant just discovered another $500,000 missing from the Singapore accounts. By end of day, his firm's board will be questioning his ability to manage their finances. Will they fire him? No, but they'll put him on administrative leave pending an audit. Take away his decision-making authority. Make him look unstable. I smiled at my phone. Poetic justice. It gets better. Check your email. The one I set up for you. I opened the account on my phone. A message from a law firm I didn't recognize. Ben and Associates. Dear Mrs. Hale, we represent our client in a matter concerning your marriage. Our client wishes to remain anonymous at this time, but wants you to know that you are not alone, and that there are people willing to testify on your behalf regarding your husband's pattern of behavior. If you wish to pursue divorce proceedings separate from the conservatorship matter, we are prepared to represent you pro bono. All communications will remain confidential. Please respond if you wish to discuss further. My hands shook. Who is this? Sloane's voice, Rachel Winters. She's been following your case. Someone in Julian's circle tipped her off. She's agreed to testify about what he did to her if you decide to file for divorce. She's been gathering evidence for 8 years, waiting for him to do it again. You're her chance to stop him. Why didn't she stop him herself? Because by the time she got free, he'd destroyed her credibility, so thoroughly no one would believe her. But 2 women with the same story? 2 ex-wives with matching documentation of his abuse? That's a pattern a judge can't ignore. I typed back to the lawyer. Yes. I want to discuss. The second crack came that afternoon. Julian called at 3 p.m., and his voice was barely controlled. Clara, I need you to do something for me. My accountant needs some files from my home office. Can you email them to him? Of course. Which files? The Singapore investment folder. It should be on my desktop in a folder labeled Offshore Holdings. I went to his study, opened his laptop. I don't see a folder with that name. Silence on the other end. Then, check under Personal Finance. I clicked through folders, and even though I was following Sloane's script, pretending to help while actually letting Julian discover how much had disappeared, my pulse raced. Julian, there's a lot of folders here. Some of them are showing really low balances. Is that normal? What do you mean low balances? Like, the Singapore account is showing $47,000. Wasn't there more than that? Another long silence. Send me screenshots. All of them. Now. I did, and then I heard him make a sound I'd never heard before, something between a gasp and a growl. That's impossible. There was $850,000 in that account last month. Maybe it's just an error in the system? It's not a fucking error. The explosion was so sudden I actually flinched. Someone has been stealing from me. Someone has. He stopped himself, breathing hard. I need to go. Don't touch anything else on that computer. Do you understand? Yes. He hung up without saying goodbye. In my ear, Sloane's voice held grim satisfaction. He's panicking. When people panic, they make mistakes. Stay ready. The third crack came from my mother. She showed up at the penthouse at 5 p.m., unannounced. When I opened the door, her eyes were red from crying. Mom, what's wrong? I need to talk to you. Is Julian home? No. He's at the office dealing with some crisis. She came inside, and for the first time I could remember, she looked small. Frightened. I went to see Dr. Lewis today. To ask him about your treatment, to understand what you're going through. My stomach dropped. And his office is closed. There's a notice on the door from the medical board. Clara, he's under investigation for ethics violations. For fraudulent documentation. I let her see my shock. It wasn't hard to fake. What? Julian told me Dr. Lewis was treating you. That he was helping you. But if he's under investigation. She sank onto the couch. What if everything Julian told me about your treatment was a lie? Mom! And I checked something else. Something I should have checked years ago. She pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot of a property record. My mortgage. Julian told me he was helping with payments. But this shows he's been paying the full amount for 3 years. Not helping Clara. Paying. He owns my mortgage debt. The way she said owns made my throat tight. If I testify against you, he keeps paying. If I don't, She looked up at me, tears streaming. I could lose my house. My home. Everything. I sat beside her, took her hands. I know. You knew. I found out a few weeks ago. That's what I tried to tell you. He's been buying your loyalty. Oh God. She covered her face with her hands. What have I done? I was going to testify that you were unstable, that mental illness runs in the family, that you needed protection. I was going to help him lock you up because I was terrified of losing my house. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have listened to you instead of him. But he was so convincing, and I was so scared. She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. I held her while she cried, and in my ear, Sloane said quietly, "This is it. Ask her now." "Mom," I said gently. "The hearing is in 9 days. Will you testify for him or for me?" She pulled back, wiped her eyes. "I don't know what to do. If I refuse to testify, I lose everything. But if I testify against you, you lose me." "Yes." Her voice cracked. "I lose you. What if there was a third option?" I pulled out my phone, showed her the email from the law firm. "What if we fight him together? Rachel Winters, his first wife, is willing to testify that he did the same thing to her. If we can prove a pattern of abuse, of financial manipulation, of using the conservatorship system to control women, he goes to prison. And you don't have to testify at all." My mother read the email, her hands shaking. "He was married before?" "Yes. And he destroyed her the same way he's trying to destroy me. But she kept evidence. And with your testimony about the mortgage payments, about how he used financial control to influence you, we can prove he's been systematizing this. If I do this, if I help you, I lose my house for sure." "Probably. But you'd keep your daughter. And yourself." She stared at the email for a long time. Then, "Can I think about it?" "You have 9 days. After she left, I stood at the window watching the city below, and Sloane's voice came through. "Even if she doesn't testify for us, the fact that she's questioning him is enough. Doubt is a weapon, Clara. And we just armed your mother with it." The fourth crack, the one that nearly broke everything, came that night. Julian arrived home at 9 p.m., looking like he'd aged 5 years. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was gone. His face was gray. "They're auditing me," he said without preamble. "The firm. My personal accounts, my business accounts, everything. Someone reported suspicious financial activity. Who would do that? I don't know." He poured himself 3 fingers of scotch, downed it. "But they're putting me on administrative leave. Said I can't make any major business decisions until the audit is complete. Do you understand what that means? I built that firm. I am that firm. And they're treating me like a criminal. In my ear, stay sympathetic. This is when he's most dangerous, when he's losing control. I'm so sorry, Julian. Is there anything I can do?" He looked at me, and something in his expression made my blood run cold. Not anger. Calculation. Actually, there is. "I need you to sign something." He pulled out a document from his briefcase. "It's a financial affidavit, confirming that you have no knowledge of my business dealings, that you've never had access to my accounts, that you can't be held liable for any discrepancies they might find." I scanned the document, and in my ear, Sloane's voice turned sharp. "Don't sign that. It's a liability shield. He's setting you up to take the fall if they find evidence of fraud." "Why do you need this?" I asked carefully. "Because if this audit goes badly, if someone has been embezzling or if there are accounting errors, I need to protect you. Our prenup keeps our finances separate, but this makes it explicit that you're not involved. Julian, this document says I had no access to your accounts. But I've used your laptop. I've sent emails from your computer. If they investigate, that's going to look like I'm lying." His jaw tightened. "Are you seriously refusing to help me right now, when my entire career is falling apart?" "I'm not refusing. I just want to understand what I'm signing. You're signing a document that protects you. Unless," he stopped, stared at me, "unless you know something I don't. Unless you've been involved somehow." The accusation hung in the air. "How could I be involved? I don't even understand your business." "I don't know, Clara. But 9 months ago, you were a competent architect managing complex projects. Then you quit, started having problems, became this fragile thing that needs constant care. What if that was all an act? What if you've been playing me this entire time?" My heart hammered. He was so close to the truth, but from the wrong angle. "You think I stole from you?" "Julian, I've been in therapy for mental illness you documented. I can barely manage to get dressed some days. How could I possibly?" "I don't know. But the timing is suspicious, isn't it? You start getting better, right when my accounts start hemorrhaging money. You suddenly want to reconnect with your mother, right when she starts questioning me. You ask about Rachel right when everything starts falling apart. He was spiraling, making connections that were both right and wrong. Sloane's voice. Get out. Now. This is about to turn physical. I think you should sleep in the guest room tonight, I said, standing. You're stressed, you're suspicious, and I don't want to fight. We're not fighting. We're talking about our marriage. Our future. No, Julian. We're talking about your paranoia. The word was a mistake. I saw it the instant it left my mouth. His face went dark. My paranoia? That's rich coming from the woman who thinks I put cameras everywhere. You did put cameras everywhere. You told me that yourself. For security. For your protection. Because you're unstable. Because you need. He stopped, breathing hard. Sign the document, Clara. No. Sign it. No. He grabbed my wrist, the same one as before, he always grabbed the same one, and pulled me toward the table where the document sat. You're going to sign this. You're going to protect us. Because if I go down, you go down with me. Do you understand? Your mother loses her house. You end up in a psychiatric facility. Everyone loses. So sign the fucking document. In my ear, Sloane's voice was ice. He's hurting you. Say the words. Out loud. You're hurting me, I said clearly. Let go of my wrist. Sign it and I will. You're hurting me, Julian. Let go. Now. He released me so suddenly I stumbled backward. We stared at each other across the living room, both of us breathing hard, and I saw the exact moment he realized what he'd done. Grabbed me. Yelled at me. Tried to force me to sign a legal document. All on camera. All recorded. His face went pale. Clara, I'm sorry. I didn't mean the stress. Get out. This is my apartment. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my phone, my purse, and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Anywhere you're not. Clara, if you leave this apartment, if you run, it proves everything I've been saying about you. That you're unstable. That you can't make rational decisions. Please. Just stay. Let's talk about this. I paused at the door. I'm going to my mother's house. I'll be back tomorrow. And when I come back, you're going to move into the guest room. Understood? He nodded, looking small suddenly. Diminished. I left. In the elevator, Sloane's voice came through. Are you actually going to your mother's? Yes. Good. Stay there tonight. I'm pulling the footage from the past hour. We have him assaulting you, trying to coerce you into signing a fraudulent document, threatening you. This is enough for a restraining order. 9 days, I whispered. We have 9 days until the hearing. We don't need 9 days anymore, Clara. We have everything we need. Tomorrow we file for an emergency protective order. We show the judge the recordings, the financial evidence, Rachel Winter's testimony. We don't wait for Julian's hearing. We ambush him with our own. The elevator reached the ground floor. I walked out into the Chicago night, and for the first time in 3 years, I took a full breath. The fortress hadn't just cracked. It was falling. I spent 2 days at my mother's house. 2 days of sleeping in my childhood bedroom, of drinking coffee at her kitchen table, of slowly explaining everything while she listened with tears streaming down her face. I should have known, she kept saying. I should have seen it. He's very good at what he does, I told her. That's what makes it so effective. On the second day, the lawyer Rachel Winters had hired, a woman named Jennifer Ben, came to the house with documents. We're filing for an emergency protective order this afternoon, she explained, spreading papers across the kitchen table. We have the recordings of Julian grabbing you, trying to coerce you into signing documents, threatening you. We have evidence of financial abuse, the mortgage payments to your mother, the surveillance, the manufactured medical records. And we have Rachel Winter's sealed divorce records, which a judge granted us access to yesterday. She slid a thick folder toward me. Rachel's case from 2016. Medical coercion, financial control, attempted conservatorship. The same playbook he's using on you. I opened the folder and saw my own life reflected back at me. Different woman, same trap. Why didn't she win? I asked. She did, in a way. She got out. But Julian had enough money and connections to seal the records, make her sign an NDA as part of the settlement. She's been living off-grid ever since, waiting for him to do it again so she could break her silence. And now he has. And this time we're not settling. We're going for a criminal referral. Coercive control, fraud, illegal surveillance, financial crimes. By the time we're done, Julian won't be in a position to control anyone ever again. My mother spoke up quietly. What do you need from me? Jennifer smiled. Your testimony about the mortgage payments. about how he used financial dependence to influence your statements about Clara's mental health. It's evidence of systematic manipulation. You'll lose the house, I reminded her. I know. My mother took my hand. But I already lost too much by choosing a house over my daughter. I'm not making that mistake again. The emergency hearing was set for 10 a.m. on Friday, 6 days before Julian's scheduled conservatorship hearing. Jennifer had warned me, he'll fight this. He'll bring every lawyer his firm has. He'll try to make you look unstable, paranoid, vindictive. Are you ready for that? I've been ready for 3 years. But nothing could have prepared me for what actually happened. We arrived at the courthouse at 9:30, me, my mother, Jennifer, and Rachel Winters, who I was finally meeting in person. She was slight, dark-haired, with eyes that had seen too much. Thank you, I said when we shook hands, for coming forward. Thank you for giving me the chance to stop him. At 9:45, Julian arrived with 3 attorneys and Dr. Lewis, who apparently had been reinstated after clearing up the misunderstanding with the medical board. He saw me across the courthouse lobby, and his face went through a transformation I'd never witnessed. Shock, fury, betrayal, and finally cold calculation. He approached with his lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. Clara, what are you doing? Protecting myself. By ambushing me with false accusations? By conspiring with my ex-wife. He gestured to Rachel, who stood her ground. This is exactly the paranoid, delusional behavior I've been documenting. Your Honor, he turned to address the judge who had just appeared. My wife is in the middle of a mental health crisis. This filing is evidence of her impaired judgment. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Justice Margaret Torres, looked unimpressed. Mr. Hale, I haven't called the case yet. Return to your side of the hallway. Inside the courtroom, Jennifer presented our evidence methodically. The recordings of Julian grabbing me, yelling at me, trying to force me to sign documents. The surveillance footage showing cameras in intimate areas installed without my knowledge. The financial records showing payments to my mother designed to ensure her loyalty. And then Rachel Winters took the stand. In 2015, I married Julian Hale, she began, her voice steady despite the trembling hands in her lap. Within 6 months, he convinced me to quit my job as a financial analyst. He said I was working too hard, that he wanted to take care of me. Within a year, I had no income, no career, no friends he hadn't approved of. And then what happened? Jennifer asked. He installed cameras throughout our apartment. Told me it was for security. He began documenting my behavior. Times I cried, times I couldn't sleep, times I disagreed with him. He created a medical file claiming I had bipolar disorder and suicidal ideation. Were you bipolar? No. I was being abused. But by the time I understood that, he'd built a legal case for conservatorship. My own family was testifying against me because he'd convinced them I was mentally ill. How did you escape? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I didn't, not really. I agreed to the divorce on his terms, sealed records, an NDA, no testimony about what he'd done. In exchange, he dropped the conservatorship petition. I spent the settlement money changing my name, moving to another state, building a new life where he couldn't find me. And when you learned he'd remarried? I prayed for her. I hoped maybe I'd been the problem, that maybe with someone else he'd be different. She looked directly at Julian. But men like him don't change. They just find new victims. Julian's attorney tried to destroy her on cross-examination. Ms. Winters, isn't it true that you signed a legal agreement stating that your allegations against Mr. Hale were false? I signed an NDA, yes. But I never said the allegations were false. I said I wouldn't talk about them. There's a difference. You're violating that NDA right now. Yes. And I'll deal with the legal consequences. Because some things are more important than money. When my mother took the stand, she was shaking so badly she could barely hold the Bible for swearing in. Mrs. Mathis, how long has Mr. Hale been paying your mortgage? 3 years. Since before he married my daughter. And did you know the full extent of these payments? No. I thought he was helping with payments. I didn't realize he'd taken over the entire mortgage until recently. How did this financial relationship affect your judgment about your daughter's marriage? My mother's voice broke. I told him things Clara said to me in confidence. I reported her concerns to him instead of listening to her. And when he asked me to testify that she was mentally unstable, I agreed. Because I was terrified of losing my home. Do you still believe your daughter is mentally unstable? No. She looked at me, tears streaming. I believe she's a woman trying to escape an abusive marriage, and I almost helped her abuser lock her up because I was too scared to see the truth. Julian's attorney stood. Objection. Characterizing my client as an abuser is inflammatory. Sustained, the judge said. Mrs. Mathis, please stick to facts. But the damage was done. The jury, there was no jury in a protective order hearing, but the judge had seen everything. Had heard a mother admit to choosing financial security over her daughter's safety. Then came the recordings. Jennifer played them in open court. Julian's voice calm and controlled. If you leave this apartment, it proves everything I've been saying about you. That you're unstable. Julian grabbing my wrist. Sign it and I will. My voice clear despite the fear. You're hurting me, Julian. Let go. And finally, the conversation from the night he gave me the ultimatum. I will have you committed. Your mother will testify. Dr. Lewis will testify. You have no money, no job, no support system. Where exactly would you go? When the recordings ended, the courtroom was silent. Justice Torres looked at Julian with an expression I couldn't read. Mr. Hale, would you like to testify? He stood and I saw him make a calculation. Deny everything? Play the concerned husband? Double down on my supposed mental illness? Your Honor, I love my wife. Everything I've done has been to protect her. The cameras were for security. Were the cameras in the bedroom and bathroom for security, Mr. Hale? Yes. After an incident in our building. What incident? Can you provide police reports? Building security records? Silence. Mr. Hale, I've reviewed the evidence. I'm granting the emergency protective order. You are ordered to stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Hale. You are prohibited from contacting her directly or through third parties. You will vacate the marital residence immediately and find alternative housing. Your Honor, that penthouse is my property, which makes it a marital asset subject to dispute. Until the divorce proceedings conclude, Mrs. Hale has the right to remain in the residence. You have 24 hours to remove your personal belongings under police supervision. Julian's face went white. You can't do this. You can't just. I can and I am. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the Cook County State's Attorney for investigation of potential criminal charges, including coercive control, illegal surveillance, and fraud. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. And just like that, it was over. Julian stood there, surrounded by his expensive lawyers, looking like a man watching his empire collapse in real time. Rachel Winters walked past him on her way out. She didn't say anything, just met his eyes for a long moment, and I saw him flinch. Outside the courthouse, my mother hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. I know, Mom. It's okay. Jennifer was on her phone, already moving to the next phase. The conservatorship hearing Julian scheduled for next week is canceled. The state's attorney wants to meet with you Monday about the criminal referral. And we need to start the formal divorce proceedings. Now that there's a protective order, we can move quickly. I nodded, taking it all in. Sloan appeared from the courthouse steps. I'd only seen him in person twice. Once at the library, once when he'd testified about the surveillance equipment he'd installed and how it violated both my privacy and state law. You did it, he said simply. We did it. He shook his head. No, this was all you. I just gave you the tools. You had the courage to use them. Rachel joined us. What happens now? Now, I said, looking up at the courthouse where Julian was probably still standing in shock. I go back to the penthouse. Pack his things. And then I start building the life he tried to take from me. But that night, as I stood in the penthouse, our penthouse, my penthouse now, something felt wrong. I'd asked for police supervision to remove Julian's belongings, but the officers had only stayed an hour. Now it was 9 p.m., and I was alone on the 40th floor with boxes of Julian's life stacked in the living room, waiting for his attorney to collect them tomorrow. That's when I heard the key in the lock. The protective order said 500 feet. The police had taken his keys. But Julian appeared in the doorway anyway, and the look on his face made my blood freeze. You can't be here, I said, reaching for my phone. There's a protective order. I know. He closed the door behind him. I'll be arrested. I'll probably go to jail tonight. But before that happens, we need to talk. Really talk. Just you and me. Julian, leave. Now. I built this life for us, Clara. This penthouse, this view, everything. And you're trying to take it all away based on lies and recordings taken out of context. They weren't out of context. That's exactly who you are. No. He came closer, and I backed toward the kitchen. That's who you decided I am. But I loved you. I still love you. Everything I did was because I couldn't bear to lose you. You never had me. You had a prisoner. I had a wife. His voice cracked. A partner. A future. And you destroyed it because you couldn't see that I was trying to protect you. From what? From myself? From freedom? From making the same mistake Rachel made? From throwing away a good life because you're too stubborn to accept help? I felt the kitchen counter behind me. My phone was in my purse, 10 feet away. The earpiece Sloan had given me was in my ear, but he couldn't help me now. The police were too far away. I was alone with a man who had nothing left to lose. Rachel didn't make a mistake, I said carefully. She escaped. And so did I. You didn't escape. Julian smiled, and it was the saddest, most broken thing I'd ever seen. You just started a war you can't win. I have lawyers, Clara. Money. Connections. You think one protective order stops me? You think criminal charges that might take years to prosecute change anything? I think the entire city just heard recordings of you admitting you planned to have me committed. I think your reputation is destroyed. Your firm put you on leave. Your accounts are bleeding money. You've already lost, Julian. You just don't know it yet. I've lost. He laughed. I built everything you see. I can rebuild. But you? What do you have? A mother who chose a house over you until the very last minute. A job you quit 3 years ago. No firm will hire you after that gap. This penthouse you think you've won? It's mortgaged to hell and back. The second the divorce is final, it'll be sold to pay my debts. You'll get nothing. I'll get myself back. That's more than I had this morning. He stared at me for a long moment. I really did love you. That's the part you never understood. This wasn't about control. It was about love. Then you don't know what love means. Something in him broke then. I saw it happen, the final fracture. He reached into his jacket, and for one terrifying moment I thought he had a weapon. But what he pulled out was a phone. His phone. He pulled up the security app, the one that showed all the camera feeds from the penthouse. Watch, he said, turning the screen toward me. The feeds showed empty rooms. Every single camera static. I turned them off, he said quietly. All of them. Before I came up here. Because what I'm about to say, I need you to really hear. Not as evidence. Not as ammunition. Just as truth. He set the phone on the counter between us. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the cameras and the control and trying to make you smaller so I could feel bigger. I'm sorry for using your mother against you and building a cage and calling it love. You were right about all of it. Every accusation, every fear. You were right. My throat tightened. Julian, I can't fix what I've done. I can't undo 3 years of abuse. But I can stop fighting. I can let you go. He pulled a document from his jacket. Divorce papers. Uncontested. You get the penthouse. I'll sign it over, free and clear. You get alimony for 5 years while you rebuild your career. I won't fight the criminal charges. I'll cooperate with the investigation. I'll testify that everything you've accused me of is true. He set the papers next to the phone. Why? I whispered. Because somewhere in the last 3 years, I turned into my father. And I swore I'd never do that. His eyes were wet now. My father controlled my mother until the day she died. She never left him. Never fought back. Just disappeared inside herself. And I told myself I'd never be that man. But here I am. Exactly that man. Julie and I. You don't have to say anything. Just take the papers. File them. Be free. He backed toward the door. I'll turn myself in to the police downstairs. Tell them I violated the protective order. By tomorrow, this will all be over. He reached the door, paused. For what it's worth, Clara, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I just didn't know how to love you without destroying you. Then he was gone. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the divorce papers and the phone with its dead camera feeds, and I didn't know whether to cry or scream or laugh. 30 minutes later, Sloane's voice came through my earpiece. Clara, are you okay? Julian just turned himself in to Chicago PD. They're booking him for violating the protective order. What happened? I picked up the divorce papers. I think I won. You don't sound sure. I'm not. He apologized. He gave me everything I wanted. He's cooperating with the investigation. Why would he do that? Sloane was quiet for a moment. Some men reach a point where fighting costs more than surrendering. And some men need to play the hero even in defeat. The reformed abuser, the man who did the right thing in the end. It doesn't erase what he did. I know. So what do you do now? I looked around the penthouse, the 40th floor that had been my prison and my battlefield. Now I file the papers. Now I testify if the state's attorney needs me. And now I figure out who Clara Mathis is when she's not performing for cameras or fighting for survival. And the penthouse? I walked to the window, looked out at Chicago spread below me. I think I'll sell it. Buy something smaller. Ground floor. Lots of windows. No cameras. No blind spots. Just space. Sounds perfect. I smiled. Yeah, I think it will be. 6 months later. The ground floor apartment in Wicker Park had floor-to-ceiling windows that faced a community garden. No 40th floor isolation. No marble floors or designer furniture. Just hardwood that creaked under my feet, second-hand pieces I'd chosen myself, and the vintage drafting table from my old studio apartment. The one Julian had given me on our 4th date, the one I'd almost thrown away but decided to keep. Not because it reminded me of him, but because it reminded me of who I'd been before him. A woman who believed beautiful things could be simple. Clara's story is one that too many women live in silence. If any of this resonated with you, please know, you are not alone, you are not crazy, and you deserve to be free. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. They can help you safety plan, find resources, and connect you with support. If Clara's fight inspired you, hit that subscribe button. Share this story. Because the more we talk about coercive control, the harder it becomes for predators to operate in the shadows. And remember, love should never feel like a cage.